Are you working too hard to make a living? There are many individuals who make more than $100,000 a year and still live paycheck to paycheck. Now, if you're in that situation, you can easily understand it's not because you're wasting money. We're going to explore that in this discussion today, but there is something you can do about it. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets, where we talk about transforming your income into assets that cash flow, into really building your net worth. Now, when you're in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's because your obligations are higher than your net income. So you're making $100,000 a year, but you're spending $100,000 a year. You could be in a situation where you have debt, where you have obligations such as your emergency fund, student loans, loans in general, other aspects that were part of the investment that got you in a position where you could have the skills to earn $100,000 or more a year. Now, you could be earning $100,000 or more a year, live in a city where the inherent cost of living can be as low as $124,000 for a family of four, and as high as $200,000 or $300,000 for a family of four, depending on where you live and whether you own your home or you are renting a home. Now, some folks will live so far below their means that they can survive on $100,000 in an area where the average income is $180,000. But in reality, for the long term, it doesn't matter if you're making $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year. There are common mistakes that cause you to live paycheck to paycheck. According to a 2019 Modern Wealth Index survey from Charles Schwab, 44% have credit card debt, and only 38% had emergency funds. These are individuals who are part of a group of 59% of adults who admit to living paycheck to paycheck, even though they're earning six-figure incomes. 59% of the people earning six-figure incomes are living paycheck to paycheck. According to another study, 60% of millennials making $100,000 or more are living paycheck to paycheck. Is it possible that the living paycheck to paycheck part is not because you don't make enough money? It's because of certain habits, conditions, and situations that simply drain away your money. Now, I'm going to argue that there's certain mistakes that people make that cause them to move further and further from sustainable wealth. Sustainable wealth is where your net income is, your net cash flow and your net income is growing, and it is growing primarily towards your net worth. So you have assets that cash flow, you have passive income, you don't have the necessary need for two active incomes. You might have royalties, rental income. You may have tax benefits. Other aspects of your living turn more of your income into net worth, or more of your income into assets that cash flow, that increase your income. So let's talk about some of these mistakes. A real obvious one is not understanding budgeting and investing basics. So if you're earning $100,000 a year, you don't really earn $100,000 a year. So part of your taxes are covered by your employer. And so you also have health insurance benefits. You're buying in a cooperative, so you're going to pay a little bit less than if you paid it directly out of your pocket. You're going to have different types of benefits associated with working at a certain employer. So you're going to have this total compensation picture, but that's still not what you're earning. What you earn is what's left over after every paycheck. So you've worked, and for every hour you worked, you get what's left over. Now, that's what's typical, and that's why a lot of people end up getting working pay for check to paycheck, because they're spending based on earning $100,000, but after taxes, they're down to $60,000 or $50,000. After health insurance, they're down even further. Put 6% or 12% away in your 401k, you're down even further. And if you look at a paycheck, this is a good test. You get that paycheck out and you look at the gross earnings, and then you look at the net earnings. You do a little bit of math. And you'll see that a lot of times 60 to 70% of your paycheck is leaving before it even gets deposited into your bank. Now, of course, you can do a little inventory. A lot of that is going to be into necessary expenses and reserve accounts that protect your personal interests, like a health savings account, a 401k. These different plans and programs, can be pre-tax, which will lower your tax rate. But all in all, it's what's left over is what you get paid. Now, when we talk about sustainable wealth secrets, we're going to talk about paying yourself first. We're going to talk about different types of income. You may not have a paycheck, for example. You may be getting your money through an LLC as a net pass-through. In that case, you might not want to actually receive any money. You may want that money to cover expenses. But again, this is an understanding of budgeting and investing basics. If you put money into an investment, there's an expectation of return. If you simply spend the money, there's no expectation of return. If you want to get wealthy, why would you spend any money? Okay, I'm not saying you're going to be intentionally frugal, while some people take that path, but why buy a car that will depreciate when you can use things such as structure? You can use things as contracts or negotiations. I had a car. I was getting $500 a month to go towards a car as a salesperson, and the company provided me a car. I just drove their car, or they were paying for the car that I had. Long story short is there are arrangements where you can work in your expenses so that you're sure to earn enough to cover those expenses. So if you earn $100,000 a year, you can do the math and see how much are you going to have allocated or available for a vehicle. Okay, it's $200 a month, but you really need $300 a month. Now you can do your adjustments. So the basic understanding. Next, there's this thing called lifestyle creep that eats away at your earnings. Now, this is not necessarily your fault. Everything you see in media, everything you see from your relatives, you got that lawyer job and they're slapping you on the back and saying, "Oh, great, you're a lawyer now. Big money. Take us all out to dinner." You're happy. Your family's proud of you. And this is the last time they're proud of you as a lawyer, by the way. But ultimately, they talk you into taking them out to dinner. And the next thing you know, you're spending a lot to be a part of that lifestyle of the job, and you feel obligated to it. I had a grandfather who was in the government contracting world, and he felt obligated to go after work and drink. I've been in environments where after work there was socials and networking and business dinners and $150 worth of food and alcohol. This stuff adds up quickly, and it eats into your earnings. Now, I'm not going to say whether that's good or bad, but again, are you spending or are you investing? Again, with media training you to consume, it's going to mean dressing the part. It's going to mean paying the bills, or having the right cell phone or the right equipment for your job, being able to have the right vehicle. What really, none of that matters, because ultimately all of it contributes to your cost of living, and those people you're trying to impress are not paying for your cost of living. So there are other mistakes, such as being distracted by day-to-day activities and ignoring taxes and fees. Living in a city could have additional taxes. I know that if I just go downtown in my little podunk city here and I eat dinner in the city, I'm paying an extra 7% in taxes to get the same food I can get just right down the street in the county and not pay an extra 7%. So now the convenience is there. I have to ask myself, do I want to pay for the convenience? I'm not as worried about it because I'm implementing the strategies that I teach about how not to live paycheck to paycheck and how to build reserves and how to build additional income streams. But ultimately, are you distracted by the cost of living increases, by the household debt ballooning, by those other factors to ignore taxes and fees by local governments? I've been shook down by my local government about personal property taxes. I've bought properties and had people come along and say, "Oh, by the way, you're supposed to pay." No, I'm not supposed to pay such and such. If you want to insist I pay such and such, send something in writing to my lawyer, and then we'll get back with you. See, a lot of times you go in and you're paying extra fees on stuff. You're paying, and it could just be a matter of how you register the ownership of something. It could be just a matter of how you structure your household. It could be a couple things, but that distraction by the general everyday activities takes you away from seeing the big picture of things. Another mistake is having only one income stream. Now, some people, a lot of families today have two active income streams. The both husband and wife or the partners, they are both having to work. Now, this is a unique opportunity where if you can live off the lowest salary, you could save a whole salary. And for every, if you are able to save $1 of expenses for every $1 of expenses, it's kind of convoluted way of saying that if you put aside as much money as you spend, that for every $1 you earn, you're gonna have another day worth of money in reserves, emergency funds, things like that. But again, if you have two active incomes and you're spending both active incomes, then you're going to be in a bind. What if you have a husband and wife team, and the husband is making $100,000 a year, and the wife is making $100,000 a year. Now, the wife has the opportunity to make $150,000 a year, but you're going to have to move to the next city over. Okay, the understanding of basic accounting and basic bookkeeping will help you understand that you got to do a cost of living analysis, because living in one town versus another town, they could have a different cost of living, and that $150,000 may not have the buying power that you had in your previous location, or somebody could get laid off from a job. So you have to make these decisions in a way that drives forward the outcomes. But most individuals, in a family, if their individual salaries went away, their individual incomes went away, it's just disastrous. And are you ready for that? Do you have 6 or 7 months of emergency fund in place? Do you have additional income streams, such as investments, such as royalties, other ways of getting income, so that you can get past those things? Another point that I'm kind of touching on here that's a common mistake is that failure to put money aside for your future self. Humans don't tend to plan for their future because they cannot see that future. They don't really know how things are going to turn out. They also might see that in the present time that there's economic situations, the pandemic and such, that distracts them from seeing that future. But if you look at your future self as another human in the present, you can actually motivate yourself to save. Now, there's some psychology behind that, but here's the thing. Failure to set aside for your future self. There will be someone in the future that you're taking care of today, and that's your 65-year-old self. That's your 70-year-old self. And you can actually determine how much income does that person need to have by looking in the present state world, how much a 65-year-old needs to live. Now, you might be saying, well, look, I like to have the same lifestyle, so I'm going to need to make the same amount of money today at age 65 so I can continue the lifestyle. And then you can do some simple math, figure out how much money you need to set aside. What you usually end up determining here is that the whole living paycheck to paycheck part is as a natural state of things. And even after you get rid of debt, even after you lower or control your cost of living, even after you get multiple streams of income, even after you limit your creeping of, as you earn more, you spend more, you'll still live paycheck to paycheck. But here's the good news. The vast majority of the money that's coming out of your paycheck, when you look at it, won't be going to taxes. It won't be going to more costs. It won't be going to more fees. It will be going into cash reserve accounts, savings accounts. You'll be at a point where you can max out your 401k. You can max out your different types of savings accounts or different kinds of money aside for your kids' education, emergency funds, building up a nest egg. You still won't have the day-to-day dollars, and it won't necessarily increase or improve your lifestyle, but it can put you in a situation that guarantees that you can maintain your lifestyle if something should change. So are you earning a good amount of money, or what others consider to be a good amount of money, yet still living paycheck to paycheck? Are you working too hard to make a living and you're really struggling and frustrated? Well, you're in the right place. If you visit www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com and you go to the contact page, contact our offices, share with me the biggest challenges that you face. We have a number of solutions available. Plus, I'll answer any questions that you have in future podcasts. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets, where I help high-income professionals transform more of their income into net worth. And if we can, we won't guarantee we can change your situation. Okay. You still might live paycheck to paycheck, but imagine if the reason you don't have any money at the end of the month is because you saved it all, you invested it all, you were able to transform it into additional cash flow, and you're just leveling up. You're $100,000 a year paycheck to paycheck. You're at $200,000 a year paycheck to paycheck. And the big difference is, instead of spending that money is invested and is growing for you. And then you're at a point where doesn't matter if you get a paycheck or not. You're ahead of the game. Again, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, visit us at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com.